Okay, it looks like we're back yet again. It's part 3 of this, I guess. I don't know what's going on here, but yeah, we are back live again. I have to figure this out. There's something going on with the phone and why it's jamming or losing out every now and then, but trying to get my So I think what I want to do, let's see if it says that I'm live again. Okay, yeah, it looks like we're live again. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to probably get up to 11 o'clock tonight, and then tomorrow, or not tomorrow, on Friday I will come back again. How the hell did this happen? On Friday I'll come back and provide the commentary or the review over that, maybe, is what I'll try to do. Let's see if I can clean this up a little bit more. Well, we're pretty much done with this one. I'm just going to go ahead and use the black on the window and the engine in here. Oh, it's brown. Shit, I don't want to use brown. Darn it, where the hell did my black go? Black. There we go. I think I might have made a mistake here, because as I'm doing this black, I'm realizing there should be a yellow reflection in the glass itself. So what I'm going to do is go back in here with the yellow, add a little bit of yellow in here. And then I'm going to put that back, use that light orange color here, add some light yellow or orange to this. Okay. And then we're going to add that darker orange color. And then we're going to add the red. We're going to let that dry. We'll come back with the black and add a little bit more black in there. Now I could probably add a little bit more red too. We'll come back with the black here and add that back in. I want the black to be the last color I put on, and I want that red to be completely dry so it doesn't bleed into the red at all. Okay, in the meantime, yeah, this it seems like this ink or this paint just doesn't blend very well or very far. It could be the paper that I'm using, so I'm going to try again this week sometime with the proper watercolor paper and see if maybe that works a little bit better. Because there's a good chance I'm just not using enough water on here because I'm worried about the paper wrinkling. And you know what? I'm just going to go ahead and put this all black. Okay, that's fine. Okay, while that dries, I'm going to so all I have in here is one brown. Let's see what this brown looks like. Okay, so that brown is more the color of the military uniform. So we're going to use that, and then I want to figure out what to do with the skin tone for Sparks and DJ after that. Hi. I'm almost done here, bud. Oh, I know, buddy, but I'm almost done, okay? I promise. Hey, bud. Hey. I'm almost done, okay? Give me another 27 minutes. Okay? Just 27 minutes, buddy? He's standing here next to me like he's a human being, just like has his arm in my arm and just looking at me. It's weird. Uncanny Valley, puppy. Uncanny Valley. Uncanny Valley, puppy. You're a good boy. See, this should be blending a lot better than what it is. Puppy, you're not helping. Ow! Ouch! Ouch! Ow, 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 ow. Knock it off. I'm trying to color here, puppy. I'm almost done, okay? It has not been 27 more minutes yet. Yeah, that didn't work. We'll come back over that later on and add some darkness to it, maybe. wonder if I can blend this now easier. Add the color in top of a wet area. Yeah, a little bit, not much. Yeah, it's weird. I wish there was a way I could blend this a little bit better without adding so much water. Okay, so I think that's the way to do it, is to, for the brown, I'm going to try wetting it first. And then using the brown over that. Ever so lightly. Oh shit. Hey, Mister, I just saw your message. Yeah, so I am using watercolor marker pens. These guys right here, these from Art Atomy. And this is actually my first time using watercolor in 21 years. So, and there's 21 pens in here. So, yeah, so anyways, yeah, this is kind of an experiment. I wanted to see kind of how these things worked. And last time I tried using watercolor, it was a complete disaster. And I swore I would never do it again. And anyways, my wife got me these for Christmas. And so I figured I would give it a go again to see kind of how they worked. And so far, it's going pretty well, I think. Sorry I missed your comment earlier. Yeah, I was trying to pick out a page for this experiment, and the all the fire going on in this one, I thought would be a really cool, kind of create a really cool image, and especially for the MiG 29 part, it came out looking really really sharp, I think. Yeah, not really true pixel art since it's already done pixel art, but I'm having computer problems today, so I figured the show should still go on, but Porthos, meanwhile, wants me to finish up so I can spend some cuddle time with him. So I've been doing pixel art since, let me think about this. So I started professionally, I've been doing the MSPaint Comic since 2000, and the variation you see now, I've been doing this since illustrating it since 2010. That was kind of take it back, 2009. That was the start of it. And then before that, I had done a webcomic based on the same kind of character design, just it wasn't done as well as this or as much detail as this, but I was doing that from 2005 to 2007. And then from before that even, I was doing pixel art, just kind of making fun little short comics when I was in the Air Force for the guys who worked missions with me. And that was from 2003 to 2005-ish. Well, that would have been until 2005, right? Because that's when I got out. And then before that, when I was in high school, I was actually doing some MS Paint work in high school for we did some sort of computer programming class, and they required sprites, and I was using MS Paint to create sprites back then. So that was probably where I got my, the start of my modern pixel art, I guess, and more so than just doodling as a kid, I guess. Has it been successful, though? That is a different question. It hasn't been as successful as I want it to be. But to be fair, I don't know if there's that many artists who will say that... Let me rephrase that. I don't know if there's that many artists who will honestly say that their art has been as successful as they want it to be. Success is kind of a relative term. I've been selling comic books. I've been doing this past year. I've been able to do conventions, and it's been successful in that I was able to quit my day job, and I now am a full-time artist. So in that sense, yes, it's been very successful. I was able to quit my responsible job and start to do this full-time. Now, granted, this doesn't pay all the bills or anything like that. My wife also works. And, my decision to do this was, with her blessing. Because I don't want to, put her in a situation where, she has so much on her plate that she just can't handle it all. But, she loves her job. And between the two of us, between this and that, we have we're not wanting for much, so we're doing pretty well, and so yeah, it's in the sense that I'm able to do this full time. It's been very successful for me. It wouldn't pay all of my bills right now. If I were living in a small studio apartment or something, and my bills were downsized accordingly, yes, this would be a successful venture then, I guess, but. But thankfully I'm married to somebody who's a civil engineer, so that kind of, enables me to do a little bit more, get a little bit more bang for my buck here. And as a result of that too, which is one of the nice things about that, is that a lot of the money that I make from this, I'm able to put back into this, so that I'm able to promote my business and do the art shows and, get my name out there some more, and sell more, sell even more books than I had been before. So, having the time to spend on this now, not just the time, but the money to spend on making this a successful venture, has, really, it's successful in that sense, I guess, is what I'm trying to say. Yeah, could I live in a 4-bedroom house, with 2 cars and, the dog and everything else? Could I do all of that? just doing pixel art. No, there's no way. I'd have to downsize tremendously if I were to try to do that. One of the things I want to try to do this year is get this YouTube thing going a little bit more, because as you can tell right now, there's you watching. So I don't have a lot of people tuned in right now, and I want to try getting this built up a little bit better, get more people involved in this, and get more feedback from folks, and try to get more people involved here so that I don't have to do quite as many road shows. I traveled a lot last year, and it unfortunately stopped me from being able to work too much on the second volume of the comic, and it had a lot worse of an effect than I expected it to have on that. So the idea is this year, focus more on getting the YouTube stuff going and get out in front of more people this way, instead of trying to wait and see kind of, I guess, what am I trying to say here? I'm sorry, I'm focused on coloring here, not on talking. Hey Lucas, how's it going? Yeah, I want to hold off on that. I'm going to do the blue really quick. Okay, we're going with a light blue for the jeans, I think. If I can find my light blue, there we go. Yeah, that's too light of a blue. Oops. That's okay. That's why we have the next lightest blue. Yeah, Mister, that was a good question. Thank you. I shouldn't say I haven't thought about it, but usually when I think about it, I think of it as in terms of, no, it's not been successful because it's not as successful as I want it to be. And I put 2 years into writing the story for the MSPaint comic. And once I had the story, I was able to pretty much just run with it. And I kind of wish that I had more time to spend on this, even more time than I have now. But yeah, it has been successful. It's not, but there's always room for improvement. If I had it where I want it to be right now, I want it to be someplace else, even further along than where it is. So. It's been successful by the definition of success I had when I first started the comic. So, in fact, it's been more successful than I ever would have dreamed it could have been. Well, my pixel art is. The pixel art is more of a dedication to my friends in the military more than anything else. And I mentioned that I started doing little not web comics, but I started doing little comics for the guys I work with in the military, and they wanted me to do something to celebrate or do something to I could share on an unclassified computer, because I was an intelligence analyst, and Um, so yeah, I went ahead and I started a webcomic then, and it wasn't about the military because I was in the military. I couldn't have people knowing I was in at the time. But now that I can honor them, that's really what drives me to do this and to keep this going. The pixel art itself, I don't know. I'm good at it. I guess that's maybe what motivates me to do it. I'm motivated to create art, and I'm good at this. And so, I mean, there's a lot of other artists out there. And I'm a decent artist. I'm not going to say that I'm a crap artist or anything like that. I know I'm probably better than most people are at art, but there are far better artists out there than I am. And but the pixel art is something that there are very few people who have the patience for it. And so therefore I am better at pixel art because I'm more patient with it. And so and as a result, I practice it more and everything else. And the inspiration to do pixel art itself is it's really more of a necessity more than anything else. If I could find a faster way to do to illustrate the comic and have it look a certain way, I would do that. But it just so happens that I am really good at pixel art and I have the patience for it and the I developed the eye for it over time, and I'm still getting better at it. I finished the first volume of the comic back in 2014, and I look back at that now and it's like, oh man, I don't like the way this looks. I was thrilled with it when it came out, and that was a little less than 5 years ago. So, I'm constantly growing as an artist, and that's true in any art form too. I'm sure if I started doing hand drawings or ink drawings or something like that, or watercolor, for example, I could become really good at it. But I don't think I would be one of the top 100 watercolor artists in the world, or even in the country, or even in the state of Indiana. So it's realizing where you have aptitude and kind of focusing on that and becoming really good at that, becoming that subject matter expert on it. I hope that answered your question. I didn't just blow it off. Why is there blue on there? That's weird. Oh, the jeans. That's right. Yeah, I hadn't thought about that question at all, really. What inspires me to do pixel art? I really do think it's out of necessity, too. I mean, although I will say this, when I decided to do the MSPaint comic as a comic book, I was actually determined not to draw it in MS Paint, which would have required me to come up with a different name for the comic, too. But, so anyways, I started from 2000, I finished the story up in I'd say probably 2000. Well, yeah, it had been 2009. I finished the story, but starting in I think 2008. Like, yeah, so it would have been right after I finished the webcomic. I started experimenting with how other ways I could draw these characters, and I tried like a manga style. I tried more of a realistic style, and nothing quite seemed to have the same magic as drawing it in MS Paint. It's a unique story. It's kind of goofy and everything else, and I suspect it's one of those things that I've thought about this. I haven't been able to really figure out the right words for it, but there's a the medium of pixel art and the style that I'm able to get out of it, and the fact that I'm doing it in MS Paint, it's ridiculous, and it's a ridiculous story that I'm telling. And I think that's just kind of the reason why it works really well. So the choice of the medium, although the choice of the medium was not an artistic decision, I think is more of a, well, I guess it was an artistic decision. It wasn't a narrative. It wasn't a artistic decision from the writing standpoint that I'm going to write this to be done in Microsoft Paint. Although I do kind of sometimes tell jokes like that. I think that the medium in this case enhances the story a little bit more. That if I were to do this as a manga or something, you know, or a Japanese style comic or whatever, it wouldn't. I don't think it would be the same kind of a story as it is now, and I think it would be a lot harder to tell something like, you know, that involves the Wizard of Oz as a arms dealing antagonist for the you know, trying to take over the world. You know, I don't think that's something that would fly in any other medium. How, you know, I don't think there's any good way to tell that story. Damn, I might have a little bit too much water in here. In a medium besides Microsoft Paint, like it doesn't belong in a book. Doesn't belong in a traditional graphic novel. Yeah, I have too much water on here. Oops. Get some of that off. That is going to become a problem. And I'm kind of glad it worked out that way too. That I'm doing it this way because, you know, like I said, you know, I'm fairly confident that I am one of the better pixel artists in the country. Like, not even one of the better ones, one of the best ones in the country. Like, and I don't mean to toot my own horn here. I'm not bragging or anything like that, but because again, it's most of pixel art is you are very patient with it, and you know, people can do one or two. Like, I've seen a lot of people do some really impressive things with pixel art, but never like a prolonged thing with it. Like, you know, it's like, oh, I'm going to do this, and just to kind of make a point, like, hey, I'm a good artist, and there are quite a few talented people like that out there. But to tell one dedicated story for this long of a period, to take up decades of your own life to illustrate a story, there aren't a lot of people who have the patience for that. And I guess MS Paint's a good medium for that as well. That, you know, kind of saying that I have the patience to do this, but and to tell the story. Let's add this back in here. This is actually the wrong red. Oops. That'll do. Another great question, by the way. That's a great question because I haven't thought about it before. What inspires me to do pixel art? One of the other things, too, I think that might inspire me to do pixel art is I've always been fascinated by, like, when I see artwork, and I've always been more fascinated by the work that went into the artwork than than the art itself. And that's maybe me because I'm an artist and that I care about these things. But to me, if I know somebody spent 8 years creating this magnificent painting versus somebody who decided to get into the abstract art thing and just painted the entire canvas black in an afternoon. I appreciate the art, the 8 years that went into the painting. Um, and I want to, I want to celebrate because there's dedication involved there, and pixel art to me is a statement about that dedication in a way that the creation of this is important. That how something is made is important. That might be part of it too. Does anybody have any thoughts on what color Belle's shirt should be down here? I'm kind of thinking that I want that frame to have more cool colors in it. So I'm thinking maybe like a blue or a purple maybe. Probably a blue because I colored her pants in blue. Or a purple, I mean, because they'd be too much blue otherwise. But I like the contrast of the heat of war that you see in the other frames, followed by and this one frame here with Belle being the break, which is Belle is going to be Kevin's love interest in the second edition or second volume of the comic coming out here soon. So. What is going on up here? A little bit more black over here. Well, I'll tell you what, coloring in MS Paint is definitely faster than coloring with watercolor. It's been a long time since I've done anything besides pixel art too. I've done doodles and stuff here and there to kind of do storyboarding and stuff, but nothing like this. It feels good. I haven't sat at this desk in a long time to sit down and do a proper piece of art. Although I don't know if you consider a coloring book a proper piece of art or not, but I do. That's all that matters, I guess. Yeah, the red purple I think would kind of go good with her hair. Good call. I think, let's see what we got here. I think a red purple is considered a pink, right? Let's see, there's this color. This color. Might be able to use these together, actually. What else do I have? I have actual purple. Okay, I'm going to think about this for a little. I'm going to put this up here so I can, well, I'm going to put this up here so I can think about it. I don't really like superheroes. And the reason for that is because I think it's silly to have even tell stories about these fictional people who go around saving the day, and I get it's supposed to like make people feel less helpless about their own lives or whatever in some weird way, but I've always preferred stories that have ordinary people overcoming. I love the idea of the super villain, because the super villain can represent a lot of things that are completely beyond your control. But to have a but I like the idea of an ordinary person defeating a super villain, and I try to stick with that in the MSPaint comic. The one exception, though, and it's kind of like a gag, is Sparks here is. And it's not even addressed anywhere. And I'm going to try to keep it that way, where it's just like he has this stupid amount of strength, and nobody says like, "Hey, Sparks is really strong," or he doesn't hide it or anything like that. It's just that nobody gives him any credit for it, and I don't know why. I love that idea that the superhero of the story isn't even one of the main characters. He's kind of a side character, and it's just like, oh yeah, he's there too, and he helps out. I find that amusing, at least. Okay, so what we're going to do here, I'm going to do a little bit of a case study, I guess, where we have a face. With a red mouth. and purple hair. I'm just getting some colors down here to see which color I like better. Okay. And it all got kind of blended together here. All right, and then we have a, let's see, we like the pink. Oh, we have more. We also, yeah, we'll do this. Okay, so we have the possibility of having a, is that my dark, no, that's my dark pink, yeah. And then the lighter pink on top of that. So I should have done the lighter pink first, granted, but this is not exactly my greatest piece of masterpiece art ever, so we'll be okay here. That's pink. I don't think I like pink. Now let's try purple. Blend that all together. Yeah, purple's good. Alright, so we're going to stick with purple here. And actually I have a dark purple and a light purple too. Probably use these together. Nope, not going to use that purple. Okay. So I think what I might do, where's my red? This will do. Yeah, I should have used pink for that. Oops. Well, Belle's going to come out looking like a hot mess after all, after this. Yeah, so anti-heroes, like, and I enjoy the humor presented by by an anti-hero. Assuming they try to be humorous with it. Like if it's I'm trying to think of a good example of a anti-hero without humor. I think it's hard to try to pull that off sometimes. Venom is probably a good example of that. I haven't seen the movie, but it's more of like, from what I understand, it's more of a at least his original incarnation was supposed to be more of like a horror type thing almost, where you have somebody who is, you know, but without humor. And yeah, I do like anti-heroes, I guess. You know what though? I don't like this. I don't think I like the superhero anti-hero. Unless it's being done as a joke. It's like, Deadpool, for me at least, it seems like he makes fun of the superhero genre, and that's why I think I like him in particular. Although I have to say, I didn't see the second Deadpool movie. I meant to see it in theaters, and I didn't get time to see it. I'm sure it's out on DVD by now or whatever by now, but yeah, I haven't had the time to go out and find that. It's really sad. I don't really watch anything unless it's on Netflix anymore. Yeah, that was a mistake. Oops. Shoot. Oh, crap, crap, crappity, crap, crap, crap. I made a mistake. And we'll try to cover up that mistake as best as we can. Ooh, I kind of like that color, actually. I think what we're going to do Yeah, I get a lot of crap from people sometimes when I do these comic conventions. Like, they ask me who is my favorite superhero, and um, I usually say something like Lex Luthor or something like that because I hate Superman. Like Superman for me, who is like Superman is like the epitome of a of a superhero where it's like if there was a what's the male term they use for a Mary Sue? Is it like a Gary Sue or something? But like if there is ever a case of a character that can do no wrong, like to me it's just like Superman is like he had his only weakness is the stone that comes from like a planet billions of light years away, and yet somehow it's like he always finds a way to like get into a tight spot or something like that. I don't understand. I don't understand that. Like the guy has laser beams that come out of his eyeballs. Like he has X-ray vision. He has like I think he has like ice breath or something too, doesn't he? He can fly. He's invincible. He doesn't get hurt by bullets or anything else. Like how stupid of an idea is that? Like I don't know. I don't understand how the idea of Superman. I get it. The idea of Superman's like Superman survives the economics of comic books because of Clark Kent, and people like the idea of instead of a person like Batman who Bruce Wayne who becomes Batman, he's Superman who becomes Clark Kent, and that's the only unique thing about Superman. And even then, I think that's kind of a cop out too. This is the wrong color purple, isn't it? No, it isn't. Yes, it is the wrong color purple. Good. Okay. Where's my right color purple? Here we go. This is the right color purple, right? Yes. Okay. Good. But I don't know how you feel about the new Star Wars movies, but like Rey is a good example of this. This is why I don't really care for. Not I shouldn't say why I don't care for these movies. One of the reasons why I don't care about these movies is because Rey is like she's too good. It's like look at his arm cut off the first time he tried fighting with a lightsaber. Ray, no. She just this guy's been training because this guy was trained by Luke Skywalker and by this other guy, when he joined the dark side. And yeah, no, he's she can beat him, no problem. Hey, there's all these other like maybe that was a fluke, but there's all these like armed guards they had at the last movie that by the not the Emperor, the Supreme Leader Snoke, whatever, and. What happened? Oh yeah, she can defeat them too. Yeah, no problem. Yeah, okay, that's great. And that's kind of the problem I have with Superman. That he's too freaking strong. He's too freaking good at what he's been written too well, I guess. And this is completely turning into a hot mess. I am hating this. How's this look on camera? Let me refresh my view here. Oh, it looks like crap on camera too. Good. Okay, so it actually looks better there than it does here. I've jacked this up. I should have been working from the light pink colors first. I don't know what I was thinking when I put that red on there. That was stupid, but on the arm because that kind of screwed everything up. And then instead of like, I think I used a different color red on the shirt and the torso area, and this is completely a mess now. Okay, we're gonna try using this red color again over here. Add some all I'm trying to do is get the shirt color to equalize out because right now it is a complete disaster. Blending watercolor paints is obviously still a weakness of mine. But it's been 20 years since I last tried watercolors, so all things considered, I'm doing pretty well. I apologize. It looks like my chat window may have frozen up on me. Let me try this. There we go. And okay, cool. Yeah, I have my chat window back open now, and everything seems to be working okay, so. I don't know why, it just seems like Firefox was giving me a hard time today. You wanted reddish purple. That's kind of... This is, as slowly but surely, this is coming out okay. I don't know how, but it's working somehow. Well, somehow this actually came out looking okay. I couldn't do this again if I tried, but somehow everything kind of equalized here. Ah, cool. Okay. There's a little bit of purple on her arm still I want to get rid of. Kind of blend this out again. Okay, there's a lot of water back there, so we're going to hold off on going any further on that corner. We'll come back up here. Um, I took art classes in high school. That was back in, I graduated in 2002. So that's, and then the last art class I took would have been in 2001, I think. Maybe 2000. Maybe, I think 2000 might have been the last year I took a formal art class. Before that, it was, I had taken a few classes. Our local library, or not library, we had an art center in our local area that had classes, and my mom signed me up for a few of those when I was younger. Um, I can't say I learned too much at those. I learned art more by doing than by learning techniques and everything else. That yeah, and I don't know. I think I might have mixed feelings about that. Um, about taking art classes, because if you want to learn how to do something, um, you're better off at an art class. If you want to learn how, if you want to make art though, and develop style, that's something you're going to learn by, you know, I think it's best learned by doing it yourself, or by learning from a apprentice whose style you want to, you know, you want to start with and improve upon in your own time. But since nobody really does the apprenticeship anymore in art, I think you're better off just doing it and getting better at it over time. There's an episode of Pixel Art Live from Christmas Eve. I think it was number 10, maybe 11. But I go through and I show my old pixel art from when I was in the Air Force. This is back in, again, 2004 time frame roughly. And compared to what I'm doing now, it's completely different. It looks amateurish and kind of garbagey, and your art style is going to improve as time goes on, and as you find better ways of doing things. But in general, though, I can't say I've ever gotten that much out of an art class. The last art class I took was actually more of a Photoshop class, where they taught you how to use Photoshop. Something like that is useful. So, like, if you don't, like, Photoshop is a very essential program, and although you can take classes online and watch YouTube videos on how to use the software, I'd recommend using GIMP instead because it's free. Need some more water on my brush tip here. But I've always been good at art. Drawing was how I passed the time when I was all the way back to as far as I can remember. I remember being 3 years old and drawing. My mom actually has some old drawings of mine too from when I was that young, and they're not bad. Like, you can look at them and see that like, oh, that's a train. That's a that's a car, that's a house, that's a person. So at 3 years old, I had I was able to draw things that could be deciphered, I guess. I don't know how, like, what age that usually happens at. My niece, who I like to draw with a lot, she got there, I think, when she was about 6 years old. So I don't know, like, if she's slow or if I was fast or something between the two of them. But kids develop at their own rates, I guess. But I've always been decent at it, I guess. And I mean, there's a stage, I'm sure, where every kid just scribbles and stuff. But I got out of that pretty quickly and started doing more. I don't want to say more detail. I mean, I'm drawing it. I mean, it wasn't much more than a squiggle, but you could tell that squiggle was meant to be a train. It had the basic shape of a train down. But my everything you see, though, is the result of practice and development of my own style from that. I mean, everything has kind of evolved and improved as time has gone on. Yeah, so this right here, although you might be thinking it looks good or whatever, I haven't done watercolor in 20 plus years, so this is and And it's turning out a lot better than it turned out back then too. I threw that old thing away a long time ago when I don't even think I made it home. I think I just threw it out after class was over. Or after class was over, I just threw that thing away. But if you're interested in making art or whatever, I really do suggest, like, unless you need to learn how to do something, like if you don't know, like if you want to take a class on painting, take a class that teaches you about what canvas, like what a canvas is, how it's made, how it's pulled, what's the difference between a good canvas and a bad canvas, and learn the difference. Like, take a class about the difference between acrylic and oil paints, and get that knowledge. And and when you have that knowledge, then you'll be able to kind of apply things yourself. If you're having trouble with like drawing anatomy or something like that, take an anatomy class instead of taking a class on how to draw anatomy. And I would do our classes probably a last resort. His hand's looking too much like his jacket. And granted, this is probably really bad advice too I'm giving you, so don't just listen to me. But I'd rather. I was at a comic convention. Where was this? This is the thing that's at LaffyCon in Lafayette, Indiana, this past summer. And there was an artist there, a guy who was very well respected too by a lot of the different artists in our area. And I can't remember his name for the life of me, and I'm gonna disagree with him. So I'm not even gonna. Even if I knew his name, I probably shouldn't share it. But anyways, he made the argument that there is no such thing as an original comic, because we're all influenced by the comic books that we read growing up as kids, what we enjoy reading now. It all kind of, and I've heard this before too, like there's no original idea. Everything's just kind of built on something else. And he applied this to art form, that there's no original art anymore in comics. And I disagreed with it. Like, granted, that might be true for most comics, but like I've been looking. I've been looking for the MSPaint to see if anybody's doing anything like what I'm doing with the MSPaint Comic, style-wise or anything else. And the one thing I hear the most is like the eyes on my characters, because they're big and black, remind like kids of Ed's World, or I think the name of it was Ed's World, Ed's World, something like that. That's like the closest thing that people see when they see my artwork, and I looked at it, and it's nothing even close to the same. And the reason for that, and it's good and bad in some respects. So like, it's good for me as an artist, because I know that what I'm doing is completely unique style-wise, and I love being unique in how I present ideas across. There's a novelty to that I enjoy promoting, However, with that said, the downside of that is that, where was this from? I forget the guy's name. I think he was the director of the Ghost in the Shell Solid State Society film that they came out with back in like 10 years ago almost. And he was up for an award, and he didn't. It was like best original animation or something like that, or develop like something like that. And it was a hands down. They should have won it for that, and they were nominated, but they didn't win. And a film that won was like, I forgot what it was. It was just kind of a stupid premise though, but it was a familiar premise. And the guy came out, and he slammed the committee actually who voted on it, and he said, people only like movies that they've seen before. They don't like movies that are new, that they haven't seen yet. It's not familiar enough. And so when you break that mold, when you do art that's not seen everywhere. So like, because the style of my comic isn't seen in every single comic book you open anymore. because you don't see it, you question like, oh well, if I haven't seen this before, it's probably not good then, because I would have seen it before if it was good, and it's that I think kind of hurts me some. Like, granted, I'm not complaining. I don't mean to complain about that, but it's like I said, I prefer to be unique than be popular, and I'm succeeding at that so far. At the time, I was surprised that the guy even said anything, because usually when you lose an award to somebody else, you say nice things about the other thing, you know. And he was kind of a dick about it. Where, yeah, I don't think he said the other movie was trash, but he didn't mince words either with towards the committee, because he clearly thought he should have won it, and or they should have won it, and yeah. But then with that, he said that, and then it had been over 10 years ago, because then I saw Speed Racer sometime after that, the 2008 film, and that movie was hated by critics, hated by a lot of different people. They said it was like neon diarrhea and everything, or yeah, neon diarrhea I think was the term that I heard used most for it. I loved it. I thought it was a fantastic movie, but it didn't do very well at the box office for the budget that it had. But that was a case too where I honest to God think that was a movie that was so different from other movies that have been made at the time, at least, that it just wasn't, it was never going to be popular for that reason. It was too unique. It was too different, and nobody had seen anything like that before. So therefore, the question would be, how can it be good if nobody's seen it before? And I love the movie. I thought it was fantastic. And yeah, it was different, but to me that was good. That's what made it so great. That I thought it honored, in a sense, the legacy of what Speed Racer was. It's really the first anime that was seen in the United States. It was, when it first came out, it was the entire premise of it, that you could have an episode of Speed Racer carry over into part 2 and part 3 of a story arc. That was never done before on television, and especially kids programming, because you wanted to have something you could show on reruns and stuff, and you can't show that on just one episode of Speed Racer on rerun, because it's not the complete story. But now you look at where TV is today, and everything, it seems like, is part of a greater story. I mean, your sitcoms are a part of a greater story. Your TV rom-coms are part of a greater story. It's all been, it's no longer, what's the word I'm looking for? It's all serialized now. That it's always, everything's always part of a greater story. And that's, Japan was ahead of the game on the popularity of that, and how, what the audience reception would be for that. But Speed Racer was the first time we really saw that in the United States, and yeah, it was brilliant. But at the time, the network stations didn't want it, because it was, how do you show that on repeat? Which is all they really cared about. Like, we have to show these in order? What? Why is that important? Is a level of complexity they were not familiar with, but it ended up being something really popular. And now, today, here we are, last year was the 10-year anniversary of the Speed Racer release that came out in 2008. So here we are 11 years later, and you see these different stories, video games and movies coming out now And this whole like I think what was it called? Cyberpunk, I think, is coming out. It's a video game coming out later this year, and it looks like Speed Racer. It's not. It doesn't have the cars or anything like that, but like the visually, like the neon colors and everything else, it looks like Speed Racer. And that's the but nobody's saying like, oh my god, that looks hideous. They're saying, oh, this game looks awesome. This is going to be fantastic. And the reaction is completely different because in the last 10 years, slowly but surely, um, more and more artists and stage designers and movie designers and stuff are, you know, going out of their way to try to incorporate those kind of neon colors and themes to their artistic storytelling, and it's become more widely accepted now. So now that you've seen it before, it's more like now that people have seen it before, it's more likely to be accepted. By people, and so yeah, so it's like had Speed Racer gone out in theaters today as opposed to 10 years ago, I think it would be a blockbuster hit. I honest to God do, because to see this, and people say, "Oh my God, it's so colorful, it's beautiful, and everything else," and so much work went into this, and but it was too different 11 years ago, so everybody just said, it looks like neon diarrhea. I wish I could get these to blend just a little bit better than what I'm getting out of these. Oh no! No! I dropped a water on here. Shoot. It's blending really well now. Shoot, 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 shoot. Way too much water. Crap. Let's dry that off a little bit. All right. That's right. Yeah, that's way too much. Okay. Well, while that's soaking, we'll come back down here. We'll add some more shade onto Kevin's hair. Yeah, if you want to learn to draw like somebody else, then art classes are good then. But I know a lot of people like they would love to be able to draw like somebody else, and art classes would be fantastic for somebody like that. If you just want to learn how to draw well, and you don't really care about drawing well in a way that's unique to you and expressive of you, then yeah, an art class I think would be fine. But I don't know. I've never liked the idea of copying other people. I'd rather be more unique than that, I guess. And not that I don't want to make it sound like there's anything wrong with that. Like you can learn to draw like somebody else and draw something that's unique, and or draw things that are unique, and have that be your art form, or you can change it up and make it your own and evolve from that. But I like the core of what I do to be unique in my own, and not influenced by other people too much. And I know, like, there's always some truth that, like, everything that I do is inspired by something else, and there's some hidden truth to that. But I like to avoid that as much as possible. And I like to kind of develop things that are. I like my own style to evolve on its own, independent of what other things are, and what other people are doing. It ended up being a little bit darker than I probably wanted it to be. Oops. Okay, and let me think about this. I probably did when I was younger. Yeah, that's a good question. Hmm. I think the last time I would have done anything like that would have been in middle school, but I'm trying to remember. It wasn't a good comic, obviously, because I was in middle school. So, you're not your best person when you are in middle school. But yeah, the other one that I'm thinking of though is back in 2005 when I was thinking about doing a webcomic. Actually, this would have been 2004. I was thinking about doing a webcomic. And I was trying to come up with an idea, and one of the ideas that I came up with was actually it was a Dick Tracy parody, but the star character on that was actually my sister Erin, and so instead of Dick Tracy, it was Erin Tracy, and she was a detective who, operated in the 1920s, 1930s, and I think that was probably the closest I came to doing a comic of someone. Someone that I guess not really. I like her. I mean, she's my sister, but trying to think as far as like taking a comic from a video game or something like that. I imagine when I was in middle school, I had to have drawn a comic, it's like a Star Wars comic or something like that, at one point or another. I remember doing a lot of Star Wars art when I was in middle school. Yeah, it was never anything serious though when I did that kind of stuff. The it would have been really kind of I think what I did was akin to what I would today call storyboarding, for a comic. Back then, it wasn't anything that I didn't spend a lot of time on any one page of that. At most, I would have spent like maybe 3 or 4 hours on a page of that. No, maybe not even that much. Maybe like an hour on a page of that was the most amount of time I spent on it, and it didn't get terribly far. I probably got a few pages into it and realized, like, what am I doing? I think it was more as like a way to kind of, I think it was more of a way to kind of avoid having to do schoolwork. There's something else to do besides my homework, because I didn't want to do that. Let's see, which one of these is my red? This is my red. Yeah, the closest I came, though, I think, was probably the Erin Tracy comic. And that was actually going to be done, not with MSPaint, but with, I was trying to use 3D models. I was big into 3D Studio Max at the time. And I was actually pretty good at it, considering I was just one person putzing around. I never quite got into 3D surface modeling. I never quite got into there. Actually, when I got out of the Air Force, my intention was to go study 3D modeling. And I wanted to do computer movie CGI stuff. But then I got a job offer in Virginia to make a crap load of money. And so I did that instead. Yeah, I kind of wonder how my life would be different had I done that. And like, it was my dream to do that. And then, like I said, there was a lot of money that was being put my way that kind of changed my mind about that. And I don't have any regrets. Like I know some things in my life would have happened differently, and I don't think it would have been for the better had that happened. Um, a lot of important stuff happened to me in Virginia, and I don't think I'd want to change any of that. But at the same time, I did make a mistake in that I didn't follow my dream, because I can't say I hated my job out there, but I was not very. I had other things I wanted to do more than that. And I think had I had a creative outlet, like at work, like doing CGI stuff, I would have been okay. But and part of me kind of wonders too, like right now, I am not a good collaborator, and let me rephrase that. I am a good collaborator. I have a hard time trusting people I collaborate with, and I kind of wonder what would have happened had I gone to study CGI instead of going to Virginia. And I really do kind of wonder, like, would I be a better collaborator, or would I have less mistrust about collaborations had I done that? Because, like, obviously, you see, like, you watch any high end computer graphics heavy movie, and you see the list of people who worked on it, and it's long. It is like 3 songs of the score long of the movie soundtrack long when they're going through. And I kind of wonder, like, I today I can't imagine myself working in a group like that, because every time I have ever worked in a group like that, the group has failed me, and I become very loyal to the projects that I do. Yeah, I become very loyal to the projects that I do, and every time I've worked on something with somebody else, without fail, artistic project, I should say. Every time I've done something like that with somebody else, they've always backed out, or something like that, and as a result, I don't really trust other artists to when I'm collaborating with them. It's just, it always feels like I'm always worried I'm wasting my time with them, in doing something like that, just because of the track record that people have. I should have probably been a little more tight with that. But what's weird though is that, like, most of those interactions, the bad interactions happened when I was still in high school doing art projects then, and that was again stuff I was doing instead of doing my homework. um, yeah, this is really wet. Yeah, one of the irritating things about it, though, like it irritates me because I guess I'm irritating myself because I consider myself with the MSPaint Comic at least more of a writer than a um, artist. And I know like I spend most of my time doing artwork, but the thing I'm most proud about with the MSPaint Comic is actually the story behind it, and the story that's being told and how it's being told and everything else. And I have other stories that I'm actually really excited about that I really want to tell, um, and I want them to be graphic novels, but um, I don't have the time to draw them. And realistically, I need another artist to come in and help with that and do the artwork for me. And just I'll provide page layouts, and if to me they don't want to do that, and um, provide the text and the script and everything like that. I'll do all that happily. I can have that ready in a week easily. I can actually have that ready. I can actually have like 4 stories ready to go in a week, because most of them are actually somewhat ready to go now. The problem is just I don't trust the stories that I have. I am absolutely in love with, and it's not that I don't trust another artist to kind of carry out my vision. I don't trust another artist. I can't trust another artist to see it through to completion, and that's there are good artists out there, I'm sure, who can and would complete something like this, but if they don't, I don't want one of these projects that I have to be stuck in developmental limbo, I guess, not lingo, limbo. I'm not a huge fan of the color of these uniforms, to be honest with you, but it's acceptable. I can live with it. Yeah, actually, one of the stories I like to pick up, I haven't really done anything with it, but I really like the idea of the Aaron Tracy comic. That just I think there's a lot there that can be done, and um, I think it'd be really popular today if we did it. But um, I've already told her this too. My sister Erin is also an artist, and she has she has a very unique style of her own that I absolutely love, and I would love for her to illustrate that comic. I would be happy to write it in exchange for her illustrating it, and I think it would be fantastic, and the type of story that it is, just like I said earlier, that the MS Paint comic, even with forget the name, if I'm doing this comic, it has to be drawn in MS Paint. The comic that I have in mind for hers, and the way that the story goes and the characters are and everything, her art style is just, it's perfect for, for that story. And part of that is because the main character is her, so of course her style is gonna be the best style for it. But yeah, she really just, I mean, she would hit it out of the park with it. But our concern, we've talked about it, and our concern is the copyright issue that I think, who is it that has that copyright? Is it Disney who has that? I think it's Disney who has the Dick Tracy copyright right now, and I don't care to get sued by Disney. So okay, we have done enough damage to the paper up here. Let's go back down here. I'm still torn about these eyes. Earlier, I decided that I was going to do Beth's eyes in a black pen, which I'm going to go ahead and do that now while I'm thinking about it. There we go. Ah, come on. Okay. I just decided I am not doing the rest of the eyes and stuff like that, so. It worked out okay for her because I needed to be super accurate with that, but the rest of this can all be done with black. Don't like that. Alright, never mind. I was thinking I was making fancy with the eyes here, but no, I disagree with that idea now. It's a bad idea. Stupid idea, Kevin. Stupid idea. Alright. Always kind of wondered how that would look if I added like a glare onto the eyes of the character's big black eyes, and I don't like it. I thought watercolor would be the right medium to try that with, and it was not. it was really weird when I was doing the web comic and I did art shows and conventions and stuff. Then the one question I was always asked was, why do your characters have holes in their heads for their eyes, where their eyes should be? And it was a running gag with in the comic that like I always insisted that they're not holes, they're just big black eyes. And other people would be like, and everybody else is like, no, they're that's impossible. No, they're holes. And it's like, no, they're just big black eyes. And there's a running gag. It's weird now that like nobody. It's not even so much I don't even get that question so much, and it's not. It's the question I get isn't so much why do they have holes in their heads. The question now is, why are their eyes black? And so I don't know what's changed. Like why? It's the biggest difference I've noticed from fans and from not just fans but like just people in general between today and 10 years ago when I was doing, or 15 years ago when I was doing this, whatever. Not quite 15 years ago. 12 years ago. And it's kind of strange. I kind of wonder why people are so ready to accept these are just big black eyes now. Whereas before they were insisting that they were holes. It was the weirdest thing. And one of my weekly web comics actually made fun of that. I think it was Beth's character, and she asked Kevin, why do we have holes, or why do we have holes in our heads? And Kevin's screaming, they're not holes, they're eyes. And then the last frame is a bird comes and perches itself on Kevin's eye, like hanging on the lower part of Kevin's eye, and like his head was a birdhouse. All of the time. No, I usually prefer. I always listen to music. I'm not now because I'm having computer issues over on my PC, which is why I'm doing this instead of doing something in Microsoft Paint. But all the time, I almost always listen to music when I'm doing artwork. The MS Paint, so like, and music's important to me too. I try to make it a point to listen to a certain type of music depending on what I'm drawing. So, because I want the feel of the music to come through in the book itself. So, when I was doing the MSPaint Comic Volume 1, I listened to a lot of metal music. So like a lot of not just like, you know, not like the grunge like rah, 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 metal, but Blind Guardian and Dragon Force, stuff like that. Things with more harmony to it. Harmonic metal, I guess, maybe. I'm not a metalhead enough to know the different types of metal. I know, like, I know it's not grunge. So, but yeah, that was a... that was a big thing. So I wanted it to come across, especially in the fight scene at the end of that comic. I wanted there to be this feel of, like, just the feel of raging against something in the final scene of that, or the final fight scene of that. And so metal was very important to the music, to what I was doing artwork wise. So I wanted that feeling to come out. I wanted, like, the pace. That's what it is. I wanted the feel of the speed of that music to come through more than anything else. And, you know, the rage and the anger against that and everything else, and the hope for what can happen if it's successful, all that stuff. I wanted that to come through, like the liberation. feel of metal music. I wanted that to kind of be felt, and I think it did. It didn't come out as quite as well as I had hoped it would. Reading it now in hindsight, but the pacing of that fight scene though, which is like that fight scene I think is like 26 pages long, something like that. It's like the last quarter of the book is a fight scene. That I thought came out. Here we're gonna have a shade on his head. The pacing of it came out really well, and that was all due to the music I was listening to. This the next comic I'm doing, the volume 2, is going to be. I'm listening more to. I hate admitting this even, but I'm listening more to girly pop music type stuff, like a lot of J-pop and K-pop and things like that, because there's more of a I mean, we're introducing Belle, who's Kevin's love interest in the comic, and I want that kind of girly romantic feel to the comic, so I'm listening to that as I'm drawing that, and it's hard because when I was listening to the metal, I got really used to that, so I still do listen to that, and I think for fight scenes, I'm going to continue listening to metal music when I draw those, just to kind of keep the pace right and consistent through the story. But for for most of the story, I'm trying to make it a point to listen more to the kind of the girly pop music and the bouncy, you know what I'm talking about, the bouncy, optimistic pop music and. Yeah, the only time I'll usually listen to, or I'll sit here in silence and draw, is whether I'm at my computer or someplace else. Is if I'm thinking about something, like something else. So like when I'm in volume 2, you're going to meet Kevin's grandfather, and my grandfather died back in 2007. So and these kind of crazy situations and stuff and experience there where I'll being Catholic, I'll pray to him and talk to him and stuff, and just kind of try to get a better feel for how those are going to exactly play out, and the feel of those, the pacing of those and stuff. And because here's the thing, I've storyboarded the entire 5 volumes of the comic, but the storyboard for me is more of a suggestion than anything else. If I were to listen to that storyboard, the first volume of the comic would have ended up being, I think, 64 pages instead of 106 pages. So there's not enough humor, I think, in the storyboard that comes through. And so what'll happen is I'll go through and add that story in there as I'm drawing. Or add that humor in there, and then the pacing thing too is something that one of the things I've noticed is I don't quite totally understand, but when I draw them in person, they just they look like or when I draw them in paint, it just looks like garbage all of a sudden, and it should be perfect the way that it is, but it's not. For whatever reason, it isn't. It doesn't come through right. And oh, shoot. I'm despising the color of these uniforms. Despising it. I might have to go through and add a little bit of green onto these. So these uniforms that I came up with, the color of them, I really do wish I could go back and just take it all back. Because it is the most unusual, weird color, especially knowing that I was doing a coloring book. Had I take that back. I like the color of the uniform. I wish there was a way, or how do I know? If I could go back in time, I would not do a coloring book based on the guys in their in these uniforms, because the color that these uniforms are just does not exist in crayons or markers or paints or anything. And I am yet to figure out the right mix of colors to get this uniform right. So I thought I would just today stick with brown for the military uniforms, but the problem with that is that the brown color is also the color of Sparks and DJ's skin, which means that I can't differentiate well enough between their shirts and their skin tones, which I'm going to try to make Sparks here a little bit darker and maybe make that look a little bit better maybe, but it's not working out too well yet. This brown is kind of weird. It seems like when it's wet, it kind of looks like a shade of greenish almost. And when it dries like a very bland beige type color. All right. Yeah, it's kind of unusual for me not to have music going, but yeah, the main issue with music is just the copyright thing. If I didn't have to worry about that, I'd be playing something probably right now. Yeah, probably have some Blind Guardian going right now, and be drawing to that. But because of copyright issues, I cannot do so. So, make do with what I can. other side of that wall. Okay. All right. I'll put some snow in here just to kind of see how it works. Yeah, I think that's gonna look good. Okay. Well, folks, this is gonna be it. My back is hurting me, and I just realized that I've been doing this for 2.5 hours after I was told myself I was going to stop. So, anyways, I am going to wrap things up here. I'm going to find dinner for myself because I haven't eaten yet, and I wish you all a fantastic evening and week. If you want to see the completed page of this, stop by on YouTube on Friday, and I will have a product review up of these markers from Art Atomy. And so I'll do a complete review of those markers, and then you'll be able to see the finished page that I am coloring here. So I wasn't planning on that hook to get you to watch the next video, but you should watch the next video because I have a hook. I came up with that on my own as I, on the fly there. That was pretty cool. All right, folks. So anyways, in the meantime, feel free to check out ktracy.com for past episodes of Pixel Art Live, as well as the ktracy.com store. I could probably pick this up so I can make my sales pitch to you in person here. You can also find great t-shirts like this one right here of the A10 Warthog. So anyways, folks, again, I want to wish you a very happy week. Be safe out there, and again, tune in on Friday to watch the product demo or the product review of these markers. I have to say, so far though, I am pretty happy with them. I've never used watercolor markers before, but these are working out pretty well for me. I'm able to do what I'm trying to do well enough to not ruin this completely. And even on her shirt here, I thought for sure I was screwed on there, and everything seemed to merge together pretty well. So I'm pretty happy with these, and I'll do a complete review of these come Friday. So tune in for that, and on that video you will see the completed page of this. So until then, have a fantastic week, and again, check out ktracy.com, and don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. Thank you again for watching, and I apologize for these being in 3 different videos. It's just I'm trying to learn this new app, and I have no idea why the other 2 cut out. So I'm going to cut off this one manually, though. So have a fantastic rest of your night or morning or whenever you're watching this, and good week to you.